This creepypasta is called Herobrine. I recently spawned a new world in single-player Minecraft. Everything was normal at first as I began chopping down trees and crafting a workbench. I noticed something move amongst the dense fog. I have a very slow computer, so I had to play with a tiny render distance. I thought it was a cow, so I pursued it, hoping to grab some hides for armor. It wasn't a cow though. Looking back at me was another character with a default skin, but his eyes were empty. I saw no name pop up, and I double checked to make sure I wasn't in multiplayer mode. He didn't stay long. He just looked at me and quickly ran into the fog. I pursued out of curiosity, but he was gone. I continued on with the game, not sure what to think. As I expanded the world, I saw things that seemed out of place for a random map generator to make. 2x2 tunnels and rocks, small perfect pyramids made of sand and ocean, and groves of trees with all their leaves cut off. I would constantly think I saw the other player in the deep fog, but I never got a better look at him. I tried increasing my render distance whenever I thought I saw him, but to no avail. I saved the map and went on the forums to see if anyone else had found the pseudo player. There was none. I created my own topic, telling of the man and asking if anyone had a similar experience. The post was deleted within 5 minutes. I tried again, and the topic was deleted even faster. I received a PM from a username, Herobrine, containing one word: stop. When I went to look at the Herobrine's profile, the page forward. I received an email from another forum user. He claimed that the mods could read the forum user's messages, so we were safer using email. The emailer claimed that he has seen the mystery player too, and had a small directory of other users who had seen him as well. The worlds were also littered with obviously man-made features, and they described the mystery player as having no pupils. About a month passed until I heard from my informant again. Some of the people who had encountered the mystery man had looked into the name Herobrine and found it to be frequently used by a Swedish gamer. After some further information gathering, it was revealed to be the brother of Notch, the game's developer. I personally emailed Notch and asked him if he had a brother. It took him a while, but he emailed me back with a very short message. I did, but he is no longer with us. I haven't seen the mystery man since our first encounter, and I haven't noticed any changes to the world other than my own. I was able to press print screen when I first saw him. Here's the only evidence of his existence. This creepypasta is called Suicidemouse.AVI. So, did any of you remember those Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 1930s? The one that were just put on DVD a few years ago? Well, I hear there's one that was unreleased to even the most avid classic Disney fans. According to sources, it's nothing special, just a continuous loop like the Flintstones, of Mickey walking past 6 buildings that goes on for 2 or 3 minutes before fading out. Unlike the QC tunes usually put in though, the song in this cartoon was not a song at all, just constant banging on the piano for a minute and a half before switching to white noise for the remainder of the film. It wasn't the jolly old mouse we come to love either. Mickey wasn't dancing or even smiling. He was just kind of walking like you or me with a normal, slightly dismal facial expression and his head tilted to the side. Up until a year or two ago, everyone believed that after the film cut to black, that was it. When Leonard Maltin was reviewing the cartoon to decide whether it belonged to the complete series, he decided it was too junk to be on DVD, but he wanted to have a digital copy due to the fact that it was an original creation of Walt Disney. Once he created the digital version on his computer and looked at the file, he noticed something weird. The cartoon was actually 9 minutes and 4 seconds long. This is what my source emailed to me, in full. He is a personal assistant of one of the higher executives at Disney, an acquaintance of Mr. Maltin himself. After it cut to black, it stayed like that until the 6th minute, before going back to Mickey walking. The sound was different this time. It was a murmur. It wasn't even language, more like a gurgle cry, as the noise got louder and more indistinguishable. Over the next minute, the picture began to get weird. The sidewalk started twisting in directions that seemed impossible based on the physics of Mickey's walking, and the dismal face of the mouse was slowly curling into a smirk. In the 7th minute, the murmur turned to blood-curdling scream, the kind that's painful to hear. The picture was getting more obscure, too. Colors were appearing that shouldn't have been possible at the time. Mickey's face began to fall apart. His eyes rolled to the bottom of his chin like two marbles in a fishbowl. He now had a curled smile pointing upwards towards the left side of his face. The buildings became rubble, floating in midair. Meanwhile, the sidewalk was still navigating in warped directions. A few seemed inconceivable to what we as humans know about direction. Mr. Malton became disturbed and left the room at this point, sending an employee to finish the video and note down everything that had happened up until the last second. Afterwards, he was to immediately store the cartoon's disc in the vault. The distorted screaming in the film lasted until 8 minutes and a few seconds in, before abruptly cutting to the Mickey Mouse face seen at the credits of every Disney video from that time, with what sounded like a broken music box playing in the background. Whatever was in those remaining 30 seconds, I haven't been able to get a sliver of information about. From a security guard working under me who was making the rounds outside of that room, I was told that after the last frame, the employee stumbled out of the room with a pale skin, stating that real suffering is not known 7 times before speedily taking the guard's pistol and offing himself on the spot. The only other thing I could get out of Leonard Maltin was that the last frame in the film was a piece of Russian text that had something along the lines of "the sights of hell bring his viewers back in." As far as I know, no one else has seen it, but there has been dozens of attempts at getting the file on rapid share by employees inside the studio, all of whom have been promptly terminated from their jobs. Whether it got online or not is up for debate, but if rumors serve me right, it is out there somewhere under Suicidemouse.AVI. If you ever find a copy of this film, don't view it. Contact me by phone immediately regardless of the time. When a Disney death is covered up as well as this, it means this has to be something huge. Get back to me. TR. I've yet to find a copy, but it's out there. I know it. This creepypasta is called Black-Eyed Kids in Kansas. It was warm for a December afternoon in Hutchinson, Kansas, when Katie came home from work in 2008. Katie's ride dropped her off across from her duplex, and as she stood in the street, her ride moving slowly away, she knew something wasn't right. "I noticed 2 boys standing in my driveway," she said. "One had longer dark hair, and the other had his hood up so I couldn't see him very well. The teenagers, about 15 or 16 years old, seemed to be watching her. Katie felt that they were waiting for her. She stilled herself and walked nervously across the road toward her porch. The boys have lurked around her neighborhood for months, but they'd never been so bold as to stand this close to her home. I had seen them before, lingering in the yard, but they always left before I got out of my ride's car," Katie said. "I had seen them late at night as well, standing across the street when I would go outside and have an occasional late-night cigarette." But although pangs of unease told her to run, their boldness angered her. She stopped and asked them why they were on her property. "They told me they needed to use a phone, and that the neighbors would not let them in," she said. "That was when I noticed their eyes. They were coal black. Just black. No white and not even a hint of an iris or pupil." Fear shot through her, but as evenly as she could, Katie told them that she didn't have a telephone. Katie walked up her porch steps and began to unlock the door when the boy in a hoodie spoke. He asked if they could come in for a glass of water, she said. I turned to look at them again, thinking maybe my mind was playing tricks, but no. When I turned and looked into their eyes, they were pitch black as the first time. These children with dead black eyes spoke softly to her, emotion and vocal inflection absent from their words. As she looked at these boys, whose long hair and hooded sweatshirts she felt hid more than skin, she knew she had to get away. I felt panic and fearful, but also very vulnerable and cold, she said. It was like I wanted to let them in, but I knew that there was evil present. I had felt uneasy before seeing their eyes, but now it all came out. Then one boy said something that turned her fear into complete terror. The hooded one told me they couldn't come in unless I told them it was okay, and that they hoped I would because they were thirsty, Katie said. I opened my door and darted inside. At this point, I shut the door and locked it. She dropped onto the couch, her breaths coming in short, heavy gasps when something tapped on the window behind her head. One of the boys stood there staring through the glass, Katie said. I remember his words very clearly. "Just let us in, miss. We aren't dangerous. We don't have anything to hurt you with." I was beyond frightened at this point. Katie jumped off the couch and ran through the duplex, checking doors and windows to make sure they were locked. I did wonder if they really couldn't come in unless I invited them, but I didn't want to find out, she said. I sat in the living room silently, waiting for a sign that they had gone. When her boyfriend came home a short time later, the black-eyed teens were still at the house. He asked if I knew who the two boys outside were, and I said no, Katie said. He told me they had been standing in a driveway when he pulled up, but walked away when he stepped out of the car. He didn't notice the boys' eyes, but they gave him a strange feeling. Katie later asked the neighbors if the black-eyed children had asked to use her telephone like they had claimed. The neighbors noticed the teens standing in Katie's driveway, but never spoke with them. Although it's been more than a year since Katie turned the black-eyed children from her door, she knew that they're still around. I still see them every now and then, standing across the street, watching, she said, but they have not approached me again. This creepypasta is called Bloody Mary. She lived deep in the forest in a tiny cottage and sold herbal remedies for a living. Folks living in town nearby called her Bloody Mary and said that she was a witch. No one dared cross the old crone for fear that their cows would go dry, their food stores would rot away before winter, their children would take sick of fever, or any number of terrible things that would happen that an angry witch could do to her neighbors and their children. Then the little girls in the village began to disappear. One by one, no one could find where they had gone. Grief-stricken families searched the woods, the local buildings, and all the houses and barns, but there was no sign of missing girls. A few brave souls even went to Bloody Mary's home in the woods to see if the witch had taken the girls, but she denied any knowledge of the disappearances. Still, it was noted that her haggard appearance had changed. She looked younger, more attractive. The neighbors were suspicious, but they could find no proof that the witch had taken their young ones. Then came the night when the daughter of the miller rose from her bed and walked outside, following an enchanted sound no one else could hear. The miller's wife had a toothache and was sitting up in the kitchen treating it with a herbal remedy when her daughter left the house. She screamed for her husband and followed the girl out the door. The miller came running in his nightshirt. Together, they tried to restrain the girl, but she kept breaking away from them and headed out of town. The desperate cries of the millers and his wife woke the neighbors. They came to assist the frantic couple. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed farmer gave a shout and pointed towards a strange light at the edge of the woods. A few townsmen followed them out in the field and saw Bloody Mary standing beside a large oak tree, holding a magic wand that was pointed towards the miller's house. She was glowing with an unearthly light as she set her evil spell upon the miller's daughter. The townsmen grabbed their guns and pitchforks and ran towards the witch. When she heard the commotion, Bloody Mary broke off her spell and fled back into the woods. The far-sighted farmer had loaded his gun with silver bullets in case the witch ever came after his daughter. Now he took aim and shot at her. The bullet hit Bloody Mary in the hip and she fell down to the ground. The angry townsmen leapt upon her and carried her back into the field, where they built a huge bonfire and burned her at the stake. As she burned, Bloody Mary screamed a curse at the villagers. If anyone mentioned her name aloud before a mirror, she would send her spirit to avenge her terrible death. Once she died, the villagers went to her house in the woods and found the unmarked graves of the little girls that the evil witch had murdered. She had used their blood to make her young again. From that day on, anyone foolish enough to chant Bloody Mary's name 3 times before a darkened mirror will summon the vengeful spirit of the witch. It is said that she tears her victims' bodies to pieces, ripping out their souls. These souls will burn in torment, as Bloody Mary once was burned, and they will forever become trapped in the mirror.
This one is called Love. This is not meant to scare anyone. Calling it a creepy story would be a bit of an insult, because it isn't one. This is an expression of gratitude toward a friend who was always there for me. He watched over me as I was growing up and was the best friend any kid could ever have, even if I didn't recognize it at the time. He was always there, even though I couldn't see him, and he was always acting in my best interest, even if I couldn't understand. I'd like to take some time to share with you our story, because if you're lucky, you might have a friend like this too. I think I should let you read his letter first. In May of 2010, I bought a new computer and took my old one to the shop to have everything backed up. I brought the new computer home and had begun restoring my files from the portable hard drive and reinstalling programs when I noticed that there's a file on the MISC folder that the shop's technician had created for files with no other place. It was called Happy Birthday Baby. Text. Initially, I thought it was a message my mom had written for me that I'd never read as intended. But I opened it, and this is what I found. You might find this one day. I'm not great at this computer stuff, but I've watched you tinker with this machine lately, and I think I know how to save this so you'll find it. Seeing as it's time for me to go, I want to leave you this little last message. I know I never met your father, but to me he was Colonel Marcus Andrew Statfield. As I'm sure your mother told you, he was a good man. One with the pride of a lion, the strength of a bear, and heart of pure gold. Truth is, I was almost like his son long before you were born. I was his second in command and served with him for 3 years. I watched your mother wept as she heard the news, her belly swollen with your soon-to-be debut into this world, and I stayed with her every second of every day. That was until the day you came into this world. Then my focus shifted to you. I watched as they cleaned you and handed you to your mother. She seemed to look right at me with a knowing eye as I stood over both of you. Almost as if she knew along, and I'd be willing to bet my last penny she did. I've watched you grow, and I remember everything, even the things you don't. You were always such a happy baby, and you had seemed to inherited your father's sense of humor. When you were getting to be 4 months old, you would do just about everything to hinder your mother's attempt at changing you, laughing all the while. You were a wild one at heart, just as you are today. Just like Marcus. When you were about 6 months old, we would play all the time. We had one game in particular where I would grab your toes and tickle your belly. You would love it, though when your mother came in, I had to stop. And it always perplexed her as to why you abruptly started crying. After a while, she seemed to think you didn't like her, which is when I realized that I had to back away some. When you were 1 year old, you seemed to develop a sixth sense for me, and although you couldn't really see me so much or so well anymore, you knew I was there. I couldn't play with you as much as before because I knew it would only hurt you in the long run, but I always kept guard. I knew you remembered seeing me because you had a way of testing my presence. You throw toys in the corner where I stood and then wait to see if I'll play with them. Now, I know you won't remember this, but once you threw a bear and a rag doll at me. And because your mother was busy in the kitchen making dinner, I kept you entertained by putting on a little show. It was nothing special. I just made them dance a little. You were laughing loudly and your mom came in to see what was so funny. But when she saw me, she wasn't laughing. I bet you can mention the bear and the ragdoll dance even today, and the color would run right out of her cheeks. But do me a favor and don't. I think it would be kinder to ask if you ever threw toys in the corner. That isn't quite as a bad memory for her as the dancing is. Do you remember your first word? I do. Love. Your mother made damn well sure you knew just how much you were cherished by her. Every moment, every day, and she will always say, "Love you, baby." I remember you tugging at my heartstrings something awful once. When your mother was changing you in the bathroom this one time, you seemed to have caught my reflection in the mirror behind her, and you pointed and said, "Love." Well, more of a love. But your mother knew, and she laughed and affirmed it. It was your only word for a time, but as I walked out the reflection, you started getting restless, and I knew again that I had to be more stealthy. You were growing more and more every day now, and I couldn't afford to break my promise to your father, which is why I had to retreat yet again. I broke the rules many times to protect you. For that promise to your father was everything to me. I remember when you were 3 and had master walking, you were a regular little scout. You can never keep still those little legs that open up a whole new world to you, and you weren't shy at all about exploring it. One day you were with your mother in the market, and a lady with a shiny purse caught your eye. You went running after her, just as another shopper was running with her trolley in front of her, coming the other way. She didn't spot you, and because you were running after the purse, you didn't see her either. Breaking the rules were not allowed, but allowing you to get hurt wasn't permissible either. By the time you noticed her, it was already too late, and you fell on your bottom before you could scamper out of her way. Left without any other option, I sent that trolley flying into the side of a freezer, and it crashed. That woman screamed bloody murder. A man in a uniform! She screamed. You simply giggled as the crowd gathered around you, and your mother came running. When she found you at that scene, you were safe and sound, and you pointed at a trolley that had smashed the freezer window. You know what you said to her then? Love, Mommy. I was hiding by then, embarrassed to have created such a scene, though I have to admit I was laughing on the side. As you grew and became more aware, so did I. And I finally knew when I could and couldn't intervene. Doing too much would hurt both of us, so I chose my moments carefully. You were a smart kid, just like your father. And most of the time knew how to handle any and every situation. If there was an option, you took it. Though I slipped up a few times as you were growing up. I do think I did well to keep an eye on you. It was just the little things make your life a bit easier. Things you probably won't remember, like putting your piano music sheets into your bag at night, turning off your television when you fell asleep, pulling the sheets over you on the colder nights, sorting your drawers, setting your alarm clock, closing your windows and door. You caught me doing one or two of these things a few times, and I want to take the time to apologize for scaring you. This one time you were doing your homework and fell asleep at your desk, so I filled in all the answers for your math quiz. You made such a fuss to your mother earlier about how strict your teacher was about homework, and I knew you knew the answers anyway. But you suspected more than ever when you woke up and found the whole half sheet you left incomplete was done. You were older and had forgotten about that we were friends. Things you saw in the media about ghosts scared you, and you had every right to be afraid. I just want to say I'm sorry. I never meant to make you cry. If only I had taken a little extra care you never had known. I just want to keep you safe and happy. As you matured, you begin to take form as a little lady, and as such, you begin to know evil of men. Though you had your wits about you, you were always taking stupid risks, and watching over you became a little more of a worry for me. Gradually, I had to expose myself more and more. Most memorably, the nights that no good boy you brought home started putting the moves on you. Your mother was at work, and he was only after one thing. And although I knew it wasn't my place to choose for you, you were still only a baby girl, just 15 years old. As he got on top of you and started undressing you, took his top off and began whispering those sweet nothings, your face said it all. You were scared. And when you told him to stop and he wouldn't, and when you tried to push him off and he got angry, when he struck you and finally tried to put his hand up your skirt, all the evil I kept inside of me broke free at that moment, and it was something I couldn't control. My rage boiled over as I began to growl, the lights flickering, the TV volume rising. The doors and windows came crashing open and shut. The keys on your piano began to rattle, and with your father's roar, I yelled, "Get out of the house, boy." He ran out of that room and you tried to follow. But I slammed that door in your face and wouldn't let the handle go until your mother pulled into the driveway. I'm so sorry, kid. The whole thing traumatized you for a while. You became more frightened of me than ever. Having such an experience, and I knew from then on, in spite of how much I loved you, we could never be friends. Not after what I done. Some nights you used to sit awake late into the evening watching for me, and I had to sit in the darkest corner looking right back at you, unable to reassure you that I wasn't here to cause you harm. You used to scream, "I hate you. Get out. Leave me alone." And just as you used to do as a toddler, you would throw things into my corner. Only instead of toys for me to play with, this time it was heavy books, CD cases, anything you could get your hands on to get me to move. You used to sit in your bed watching that corner. I always felt terrible about what I did. I almost broken that promise to your father, but more importantly, I almost broken that personal promise I'd made to you. It was like that until the night you tried to make peace with me. That night, you sat up in your bed and said, "If you're here, I'm sorry. You're only trying to stop him." I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. Even as you shuffled around nervously and called, "You're here, right? Could you show me a sign?" I wanted so badly to give you something, anything to show you I was there, and that I heard that, but fearing that you would lose if I did. Lose it if I did. I kept silent and just nodded. In that dark corner where you couldn't see me, you have to know I was never mad at you. You were just a little girl, and that little prick tipped me over the edge. Promise me you'll never do anything like that again, won't you? It's your 18th birthday today, which is exactly why I'm writing this to you. I want to wish you a happy birthday. I'm sure Dad's getting sick of keeping that bar stool open for me. Live a good life. Try not to forget about me, and know you turn out great. Your father will be so proud of you. This letter is my present to you. Don't you worry about the spooky corner anymore. My final order is complete. I don't know about you, but I think this trooper deserves a drink. You sure were a handful. If you find this one day, try calling out to me. Take care, be safe, and live a happy life. Love, Lieutenant Ashley Gilchrist. P.S. If you call out my name, call me what you used to call me as a kid. That always got me running. That always got me to come running. I was gobsmacked when I read this letter. Everything finally made sense. All things that happened to me when I was growing up, I always thought I was saying things till that day when my ex-boyfriend almost raped me. I'll be the first to admit that I was scared of him because I didn't understand what he was, why he was there, or what he was after, but I see that I had it all wrong. A few days after reading the letter, I asked my mom a few questions about the spooky things that happened to me when I was growing up. She was very nonchalant about the whole thing until I mentioned what happened in the market. There, she stopped cleaning, set down her cloth, turned to me and smiled. "You always had a guardian angel watching over you, honey. I don't know if that was your father or not, but who or whoever it was, it made sure nothing bad ever really happened to you." As she turned around and began to clean the dishes, she asked, "So I guess you met it then, right? Your spirit friend?" Not exactly. He left something for me. I went upstairs, brought my laptop down, and showed her the letter on my computer. My mother was crying by the time she finished the story, and she told me all about my dad's friend. He was a kind boy. Mark brought him home once to meet me, and he had a certain thing about him. That man was as loyal as a dog to your father. He had a love and respect for him that even I was intimidated by at times. When he came to our home on leave, Marcus nearly had to order him to make himself at home, and he even had to be asked to take his uniform off. He looked up to Marcus almost like a boy looks up to his father. I don't really know his background, but I remember your father tell me that he was a good drinking partner, a fine soldier, and a valuable friend. She took a deep breath and choked back a few of her tears before continuing on. They found that poor boy and your father all alone in a building that had been overrun by their enemy. They'd been out on recon and their team got separated when they came under fire. The rest of the boys on your father's team survived, but those two weren't so lucky. The way they found them was peculiar. She swallowed heavily, looked me right in the eye and said, "That boy was found on top of your father, riddled with bullets. He was shooting him right up until the moment he died. He could have gotten away, but he refused to leave your injured father's side." With that, we both burst into tears. Love. That's exactly what he was. He was a guardian. I never had any reason to be afraid of him, and I have given anything just to tell him that I was sorry, and that I loved him back. I had no right to have done all those terrible things I did to him at the end. I realized that he had loved my father so much not even death could keep him from that promise he mentioned in the letter. When I asked what the promise was, my mother looked at him. My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "It was made in this very house while they were setting up your room. It was just, no matter what happens, promise me you'll watch over my daughter."